All right, I think we're having some technical difficulties again, just getting some things worked out on the other end. We'll go ahead and take a vote as soon as we have Lisa back with us, unless Lynn.
Hear me?
Now we can hear you, Lisa. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, my computer, I'm having a hard time with the link. I've logged back in and logged back out.
Yeah. Okay.
I second. I heard the motion. I can hear you guys talking, so I second.
Okay. Great. Got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good. We're going to go on to board trustee comments then. There is one comment for this evening, and I wanted to thank you all for joining us via Zoom this evening. For our next board meeting on November 1st, we are working towards having that in person again with public comment. And so we are looking to secure a good spot for that. And so stay tuned over the next few weeks. That's what we're working towards. And so that was the one comment I wanted to make right off the bat tonight, is that is the plan for November. So for tonight's information and looking forward to this, we'd like to start with the high school student body reports. And so I think first up tonight, we have K-Tech. And so let's hear what's going on at K-Tech right now.
Hi, my name is Michaela, and this is Clara, and this is Maddie.
And we're all juniors here at K-Tech in the Health Professions program.
And we just want to say a big thank you for supporting us.
Why are you at K-Tech?
Personally, I am at K-Tech because I wanted to see if going into the medical field was what I actually wanted to do when I graduate high school, and I wanted to graduate with my CNA.
Same. I also know that the medical field's always going to need people, and I just want to be there to help.
And personally, I struggle with attendance, and K-Tech gave me the motivation to go to school and graduate with my graduating class.
What have you started learning already at K-Tech?
In the first 4 weeks, we've already learned how to take a pulse, medical terminology.
We've also learned respirations, blood pressure, along with fire safety.
And our entire class is already CPR certified.
What are some of your class goals?
Some of our class goals is to get a job right out of high school and just to explore the medical field. Again, just a big thank you for supporting K-Tech, and we appreciate you.
Great, thank you, K-Tech. And then let's hear from our next school.
The mission of Venture High School is to assist students to achieve their highest potential through individualized, flexible, and structured educational experiences that enhance their academic growth and prepare them for lifelong learning and success. We had quite a few projects going on at Venture the first month. Along with focusing on the mission statement, our teachers have also been focusing on the portrait of a graduate. Michelle Pavlik's class focused on a recycling project. Her class centered around boosting creativity and building character this week. The recycling bins they made will be placed around our school to help promote recycling and making our planet healthier. During Lena Cooley's class, they worked on collaborative games. One person was blindfolded and the other told them how to put a puzzle together. They also played a communication teamwork game called Forbidden Island. The goal was to escape the island as a group, working together. In Diana Baker's class, the students moved into teams and cooked bacon. This allowed them to expand upon their critical thinking and analytical skills. All the students had to run through the different ways to cook the bacon and determine what was different about it. The small groups also helped them better their collaboration and communication skills. In Adam Failing's class, they worked together as partners in a marble run. They had to use critical thinking and problem solving while building character. Meanwhile, Carlos Gonzalez's math class focused on content knowledge, communicating ideas into words, and collaboration agreements. They were also working on critical thinking, realizing there is more than one way to solve a specific problem.
Now, I'll let you just pull up whichever. I know we're hearing from all 4 schools this evening, so whichever one is next then. I think it's CHS, or no, Lake City.
Board Chair, Honorable Trustees, Superintendent Hawker, District Administration, and valued community members. My name is Caden Stone, and I'm the ASB President here at Lake City High School. Today, we wanted to update you guys on the exciting month we just had and the month ahead here at Lake City. We concluded our homecoming week 2 weeks ago, and it was an amazing success. Our student body had such a fun time with our Spirit Days. Our parade was the largest it's ever been, featuring 32 entries, including royalty, football, our grand marshals, and so many other student groups and organizations. Halftime of the football game was highlighted by our incredible marching band and the crowning of our homecoming king and queen, Bridger Stevens and Izzy Hinkle. Our homecoming dance on Saturday night, which featured great music courtesy of DJ Rocks and beautiful outer space decorations, was so much fun for everyone in attendance. Overall, Homecoming 2021 was loads of fun and a week we will never forget. Last Friday, we also hosted our annual Senior Start event. Our seniors started out the morning with free breakfast in the Commons provided by our senior parents before attending our senior class meetings, where they were informed about graduation plans, updates, and orders for graduation apparel. We then went outside and played very fun color war, slip and slide, and yard games. It was a very fun and successful event to kick off senior year. A huge thanks is due to our senior counselor here at Lake City, Catalina Chacon, for all of her hard work to help make that event possible. We have planned a very productive and impactful October for our T-Wolf community. First off, we began our Mental Health Awareness Week today in alliance with Sources of Strength and the Coeur d'Alene High School Student Council. This is going to be a week aimed at spreading positivity, awareness, hope, and love through positive messages, games, challenges, conversations, and education at both Lake City and CHS. The week will culminate with our pregame tailgate on Friday before our home football game against Coeur d'Alene, which will offer free food to all spectators regardless of who you are rooting for. Also at the tailgate will be Sources of Strength booths and the opportunity to donate to a couple of amazing mental health nonprofits chosen by our 2 schools, Holinsky's Hope and Mental Health America. While we will be battling on the field, our schools are united in breaking the stigma around mental health, highlighting resources for struggling students, and overall spreading positivity. We are also fully committed to participating in Breast Cancer Awareness Month and are looking forward to decorating our school as pink as possible and running fundraisers for cancer research in support of all of our staff members, parents, and community members who have dealt with or are dealing with breast cancer. We also have an exciting month of activities coming up here at Lake City. Many clubs such as improv, role-play gaming, art, dance, speech, and debate are starting back up, and we are excited for our students to get back involved. We also have districts and state tournaments coming up for our fall sports. Our fall teams are competing very hard, including our boys soccer team, which is ranked #1 in the state. We are looking forward to cheering on all of our student athletes in this final stretch. So thank you for the opportunity to come speak with you tonight, and we will see you again next month. Go T-Wolves.
Thanks, Lake City. I think finally we have Coeur d'Alene High.
Good evening, esteemed board chair, our honorable trustees, Superintendent Hawker, and our valued community members. My name is Maya Reeds, and I'm Coeur d'Alene High School's ASB president. With me tonight is Gracie Shaver, our ASB secretary, and Ellie Morshow, our ASB vice president.
Thank you, Maya. Recently, we were able to have our freshman class elections, where the freshman class was able to elect 12 students to represent their class, and they elected 10 representatives, vice president, and a president because their class was so large.
Thanks, Gracie. We also recently elected our Blue Zoo Crew. And Blue Zoo Crew is a group of spirited upperclassmen who help bring the hype to games and our student section. We were able to elect 4 captains, and we have overall 23 members this year. We've really been focusing on promoting good sportsmanship at games, respecting teams, other teams, and our own, and school property. We really just want Blue Zoo Crew to embody what it means to be a Viking. We're also really excited to partner with Lake City this week for Mental Health Awareness Week, and we're going to partner with them and do a tailgate with them before our game on Friday.
Thanks, Maya. We're super excited for our homecoming festivities coming up the week of October 11th. We have over 420 students involved in our parade on Thursday, October 14th, and we're super excited to have changed our route so that it goes by CHS and Canfield, and we can get way more students involved. We'd like to extend a personal invitation to board members and district employees to come to our parade on Thursday and homecoming game on Friday.
Thanks, Ellie. Lastly, we just want to recognize a few students from our school that have been outstanding this month. So our October Rotary Student of the Month is actually Ellie Morserow. Good job, Ellie. Also, our commended student for the 2022 National Merit Scholarship Program this month is Brooke Strong. And College Board National Program wants to recognize Otskwe Shabala and Alex Reyes this month.
Thanks, Maya. We'd like to take this last final moment to thank all of our board members and everyone present for all the time that they put into us, and we really appreciate all the work you do for us.
Go
Thanks. Thanks to all of our high schools for presenting tonight. It's a lot that's gone on in the first few weeks of school. So that's great to see. Next up, I think we have our Sag Leadership Report. And so, Austin, are you presenting or?
Yep, that one's me.
Thanks, Austin.
So for those of you who don't know or are unaware, my name's Austin Smith. I'm the Student Advisory Group Vice Chair this year, and I have been chosen to talk about what we've been up to and some of the future and that kind of things tonight. So the most important thing that I'm really excited to announce is that we've actually found a new high school student advisory group advisor for this upcoming school year, and that is Miss Rachel Carnes at Coeur High School. And she's just phenomenal. She's an excellent educator and an overall great person. So we're really excited to be working with her. At the high school level, I know that we're trying to get really involved with the High School Student Alignment Committee, along with a few other projects that we're working on with Miss Barrett and other district level administrators. And I would turn it over to Miss Babb and Miss Nelson, but Miss Babb said that she was having technical difficulties. So if you don't mind, I'd like to steal a little bit of her thunder. She said that the little elementary kids will be meeting on October 11th in the morning to discuss ways that they can effectively and, importantly and impactfully communicate their concerns of what's happening in the elementary world. So that's just phenomenal. And if you have any questions, I implore you to talk to her. She's just amazing. And also with us tonight is Mrs. Nelson, who I think would be more than willing to talk about what the middle school people are up to.
Thank you, Austin. I so appreciate the warm welcome. Just a quick little update. Mrs. Babb and I had the greatest opportunity to meet with Dr. Hawker and Mrs. Barrett and Mrs. Morrison to really talk about student advisory group and its purpose and what our goal is for this year as far as just creating those opportunities for student voice and agency. And it was just so wonderful for all of us to be together and just talk about vision and steps moving forward. So just middle school will also be meeting on October 11th, and we have the same type of questions that we're going to be talking about is what's the best way you can ensure all student voices from your school are heard? How are you going to let your students know that you're a SAG representative? And what do you feel are the most pressing concerns for middle school students in our district right now? So that's where we're going to be starting and getting together and hopefully making some positive change for all students in our district. Thank you, Austin.
Terrific. Is that everything, Austin?
I would be more than willing to stand open for questions, but as far as the little speech I've got to give, that's pretty much the extent of it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. I don't know if any of the other trustees have a question or anything, but I'm excited to see how this will roll out now that you're fully in place and moving forward, and how we can, I think as trustees especially, hear that input. I think it's going to be really key to keep considering how do we hear it, because I want to be able to hear it and then apply, the student voice as well. So it's real important. Thanks for all your work on that, everyone. Good. If there's no other questions, CEA report. I'd like to introduce, I think we have our new president, Aaron Hayes. And so looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks, Aaron.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, to the trustees and the administration, the community, I just want to thank everybody who's been working really hard this year so far. Your efforts are definitely appreciated, and I know we have a lot of problems to solve still, but I trust we can keep finding solutions and keeping our staff safe and all the families we have, giving them the support they need. I have two just brief things to discuss tonight. One is that the negotiation teams for both the union and the district have worked really hard to get a proposed settlement. And the main reason I think you understand is this advanced professional endorsement issue. I'm sure you're familiar with the details, but I just wanted to emphasize the fact that this is a change, sort of a rudder change in an adaptation of a multi-year issue on how we're going to start looking at the advanced professional wrong. And so I just encourage you to keep, as you're budgeting long-term and thinking about going down these roads, how we're going to recruit and retain good teachers through this and what that might look like budget-wise. Just a huge thank you to the district team and just a public thanks to our team. I think hopefully I've thanked everybody enough on our team about the hard work and the amount of time they spent figuring this stuff out. The other issue I just wanted to bring up is I wanted to emphasize as teachers, and I'm sure as the districts, our appreciation for education support professionals, which is, what I like to call the classified staff who are working despite everything this year to keep the district running. And as a local union, we are just thinking of ways of finding ways of supporting them more and recognizing them as a critical part of our work environment. And I'm just hoping everyone's willing to look at different ways this year that we can support them. So negotiations, I know a lot of issues. If you were interested in my thoughts, I could talk more, but I'm sure you have read everything, and so I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Aaron. Trustee May, Trustee Morrisroe, I don't know if you have any questions or anything, or.
No, just appreciate the input. Thank you.
Yeah, no questions, but thank you, Aaron. Appreciate you being here and welcome into that role.
I know it's big on all of our hearts and minds just to figure out how to recruit teachers that want to be here in our community and keep doing that. So that's something I know we'll all work for together. So thank you for that. Good. Let's move on then to our consent agenda. It's an action item. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, or?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I was wondering if we could remove item C from the consent agenda for quick discussion. I said a few questions about that.
Yeah, and Ms. Towne, I'm not sure, do we just pull that out and discuss it separately tonight, or do we want to put a comment on that or discuss it later? And that's the proposal for extended sick leave.
You can, Mr. Morrisroe could amend his motion to approve A, B, and D through G, and you can pull C for further discussion.
So moved. That will work.
Okay. I will second then the motion to remove C from the consent agenda for approval.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so for C then, is that something?
Yeah, I just had a few questions as I was reading through it. We haven't had a opportunity to discuss this yet as a board, and so there's a couple items that caught my eye. One was the potential that a staff member could go negative in their sick bank and have to use time in the next year if indeed they did get sick with COVID during this calendar year. So I wanted to get some input from Dr. Hawker on that. And the second was just the overall thought is this policy potentially not encouraging, but not allowing staff to stay home if they're sick, especially for our younger staff that might not have as much accrued sick time as our more tenured staff. So I just wanted to get Dr. Hawker's view on that. And I know that we received ESSER dollars, and there's an opportunity that potentially we could use some of those funds to support our staff during this difficult time. We're almost there, and I think we're, hopefully getting ready to be on the downside, but I would hate for any staff member to have to use all of their sick time or even a piece of their sick time and have to be in the negative starting the year out. So I just wanted to get his perspective on that.
Thank you. If that's okay, let me do my best to try to answer those questions. Again, this is I think an opportunity for us to at least put a foot forward in the right direction. We are super aware that we have teachers who have used up many of their sick leave days because of prior other illnesses, maybe over the last few years. Of course, COVID as well. We also are aware that, we have a fair amount of new staff, whether it's teachers or classified, that are new to the district within the last year or two. And so we wanted to make sure that we could present something to the board to try to make sure that all of our employees would at least be made whole, so they could still at least pay their bills, pay their rent, and not go into the negative. And so a proposal was presented here to the board for approval that would allow us to do that with what we felt was minimal risk to the district from a financial perspective. The risk would simply be if an employee left and took advantage of this offer. We believe, again, right now this offer is I couldn't guess how many will end up using this specific offer over the next month or two, or whenever maybe we get through most of this. But we again wanted to just at least put a foot forward. If the board would like us to look at additional strategies and things to do, as Trustee May has mentioned, the ESSER dollars, which again, as I have shared, the conversations have spent those dollars multiple times over. So it just boils down to creating a priority list of those funds. We certainly could bring something back to you, perhaps to even do something further if that's the board's wishes, and we could work on that over these next 30 days before your next board meeting. But I would ask that we at least put a foot forward to help ensure our employees who maybe are down to just a few days left would know that they're going to be able to be made whole and they could borrow against those days of next year.
Yeah, so let me make sure I'm understanding the information's in the packet. So what the district is presenting to the staff is the opportunity for them to go negative, borrow into their next year's sick bank. Is that correct? So there's no offer on the table to provide them coverage if indeed they became sick with COVID during this calendar year.
Yeah, exactly. The proposal at this time is to, again, allow everybody to not have to deal with worry about any potential pay deductions, and to be able to make sure that their take-home pays are made whole by basically fronting them the necessary days. It becomes as you can imagine, everything in COVID is difficult. It's a big challenge to figure out, what are those numbers? What should that look like? And as well as I do, a teacher could come down and be sick with COVID over a period of a school year. Maybe that doesn't happen within 90 days to a few months after being sick the first time. But also teachers oftentimes don't really get sick. Perhaps they're needing to use their days to stay at home with a sick spouse or sick children, and that could cycle multiple times throughout a school year. So trying to come up with how many days to to grant to staff is very challenging at best, and trying to find an avenue that would be fair to all employees also merits a lot of discussion. And so really, after having all of that and working through all that, I was in support of the proposal from our Human Resources Department to at least try to find an avenue that would be fair to all employees, and at least knowing that they, if they ever do get down to 0 days left and still need to have some days off for a COVID illness, that they would be covered and made whole. And so I guess, again, based on the wishes of the board here with this action item, if you'd like us to go back to work and put together some additional proposals, we'd be happy to do that. Again, I just want to put something out now to get a backstop, so to speak, to help our employees today.
Yeah, I appreciate all that work, Dr. Hawker. I know this is a very tricky topic, and last year was a lot easier when you guys had more guidance and from the state. I think moving forward for me, knowing that half of our students are not yet eligible for vaccine, but they will be shortly if their families choose that. I don't want our staff to be in a situation where they feel as though they have to come to work sick. And because we don't have access to rapid PCR tests for our staff, I worry that especially our new staff wake up with a headache, sore throat, fever, and they come to work because they have limited number of sick days. And so without policy in place that allows them opportunity to get tested without using these sick days, I wish we knew the number of staff that were potentially at risk, and if there was a way that we could have some leeway in offering our staff that do get sick in this calendar year some protections, especially because we have received a substantial amount of federal dollars just for this sort of thing. So I guess that's my perspective. I like policies forward thinking that are protecting our students and staff, and I think there's probably some way we could meet in the middle, and I felt as though maybe this was not looking after our staff or our students as much as I hoped that we could. So I'm open to whatever suggestions other board members might have.
Great, thanks, Trustee May. Trustee Morrisroe, do you have any thoughts or?
I'll be quick. I think for me, I guess I'm not opposed to hearing what other alternatives are out there. What I think moving forward with this policy in the meantime makes sense. I think Dr. Hawker, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I read it, if currently a staff member uses up whatever sick days they have and go beyond that, they kind of reach a choice. Do I come to work sick, or do I take a day, and at that point, those days beyond what they had start subtracting out of their paycheck at their daily rate? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so this proposal would be, instead of them subtracting out of their paycheck, they're borrowing against next year's sick days, correct?
Correct.
I'm in favor of approving this, and wouldn't be opposed to hearing more or what other ideas are out there, but I'll leave it at that.
Dr. Harker, is this, this is pretty time sensitive to have something in place for right now. Is that correct? Am I correct in my understanding that way, that we need something in place right now and then we could continue to add on to it kind of moving forward?
Yes, I think this would at least create some level of comfort. It may not be perfect and exactly as good as we could do next month when we bring back another proposal, perhaps. But I do believe at least it's something so that staff know that they're not going to go in the hole and lose funding in the event they were to get sick. And then we can spend some time this next few weeks, and certainly if it's the board's wishes, bring back some additional proposal for next time.
I'll just say too, I think I'm correct in this, in that last year was a different situation, at least for part of the year, because the federal government provided a tax credit for this time through our payroll taxes, and that was offered to any business in the United States. And I know that was something I had employees at my business take advantage of, but that has expired. That's no longer available, that tax credit. So this is an issue facing really all employers at this point. I'll make a motion to approve item C on the consent agenda, if we're ready for that.
I'd be willing to move forward if we could be able to see a proposal next month from Dr. Hawker. I think, you know, in light of the monies that we have received from the federal government, to not provide our staff anything in the case that they are sick and out because of COVID, I think I'm not comfortable with that moving forward. I don't want to incentivize staff to come to work sick, especially until all students have access to get vaccines. So if it's with the caveat that next month we can hear some potential ways that if staff are sick, if it's either 1 or 2 days or whatever Ms. Ebner thinks might be feasible, I would like to hear some sort of opportunity for our staff. I've heard from several staff members that it's been frustrating for them, that they've had to already use their personal time because they've been out sick with COVID. So, I'm willing to move forward, so no one has to take any days off if they're already out, or lose potential paycheck if they're already out of their sick days. But moving forward, I'd like to see some sort of proposal brought forward that we could at least discuss.
Dr. Hawker, does that give you enough direction?
You betcha.
So I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thanks. Moving on then to our consent agenda items for information. Are there any questions at this point on those consent agenda items?
None for me.
None for me.
All right. Moving on then. Dr. Nelson, I believe you're up with our assessment and student achievement information.
Well, good evening, Vice Chair Smith, Superintendent Hawker, and members of the board. Hope all of you are doing well this evening. It is amazing that we are now into our 5th week of classes. And after our own teaching and support staff have had some time to get to know their students a little bit better and establish a supportive schedule for them, we've now provided assessments to students, and we have our first data to be able to know their current abilities and their potential over the course of the year. But before we get a chance to be able to take a look at our results, we want to actually take a few moments to talk about our program of assessments as well. And just making sure that my screen is up, it appears so. The first thing that I wanted to go over is remind you that our assessment program is defined in our document that is called our Comprehensive Assessment Plan. The first thing that is very important is that we only provide assessments that are value added for our students. That every kid in our district, every parent, every faculty, staff member needs to know the purpose of every assessment that we give. And they need to know what the targets are so that we can identify really good and poor performance just by using those assessments. The time that we have with our kids is very valuable. So we need to only provide students with assessments that really accurately measure their learning and give us a path moving forward. We don't want to just assess for the purposes of getting a number. We want to get something that we can use over the course of a year, monitoring growth along the way. Really, what we want to provide you and to our community is that we want to have valid, reliable, and dependable data on how students are performing. Therefore, we need to ensure that students can really do their very best work. So I do have these embedded into any of the presentations that our students receive before the assessments. And again, we have a structure of assessments along the way. A majority of our students' work, let me turn on, let me see if I can get my laser printer. Oh, I can't on here for whatever reason. But these bottom 2 bars of the pyramid are where a majority of our teaching staff spend their time, really watching student growth day by day, little formative check-ins with kids. Even a raise of hands gives us information. The data that I'm going to provide for you today is right in the middle. These are local benchmark assessments. They have been chosen because they meet those criteria at the very top of the first slides that we provided. The top of the pyramid will get, those are more summative assessments, things that we'll see toward the very end of the year. We did also provide remote assessment to a few students along the way. We had a handful who were just not able to come into the school facility. So we provided the assessment at home. That was one of the flexible pieces that we really wanted in choosing an assessment. But we did provide safeguards and communications to make sure that really the results that we have were reliable and accurate for those students. The two assessments that I'm going to be focusing on today are in elementary school. The first is iStation Reading, which is commonly in Idaho known as the Idaho Reading Indicator. We actually provide this assessment in grades K through 5, but it is only measuring the Idaho Reading Indicator in grades K through 3. Now, wouldn't you want to just sit and practice your reading by shooting a few asteroids along the way? I mean, that's really what this student is doing at the time. They're practicing vocabulary, and this is the new iStation platform that was launched this year called PowerPath. We did have some problems along the way in administering PowerPath, but we don't feel that it really impacted any of the results that we're seeing. Again, we give the Idaho Reading Indicator in grades K through 3, and then our students in 4 and 5 continue their work so that we can continually monitor their growth before leaving elementary school. For students who are a little bit behind right now, we do offer monthly progress monitoring and individual student licenses to make sure that students are able to grow along their pathways. Ultimately, we want all students to be on grade level and reading to potential by the end of their year. How did our students perform? Well, this gives you a chart of performance on our very first diagnostic of the year in the month of September. The green bars identify that a student is on track or already on grade level. The yellow bars identify that the student is probably close to 1 grade level below where they should be. And anybody who is in the red bar would be considered 2 grade levels below. One of the first things that we want to point out to you on this is also take a look at the sample size at the bottom of the screen. You'll notice that just under 600 more students assessed over the previous year. And that it does tell you a little bit about the drop that we saw in K-5 for iStation and our overall enrollment during pandemic learning this last year. So we did see an increase in the number of population taking it, but still about 500 fewer students than when we administered the exam 2 years ago. Overall, 59% of our students are right about where they should be. 22% are getting there, and 19% are showing some initial struggles. When you compare these data over the course of the last 3 years, we don't see any of those bars that would be statistically significant, meaning that there's a 5% or more difference between any of those bars along the way. So pretty normal, we would say, for this time of year. Again, we do identify students for early reading intervention, and any student who is at Tier 3 will be provided an individualized learning plan. That it would be in the red bars up at the very top. And again, we provide personalized lessons and licenses for those students. We do also want to share with you what we are seeing in the data right now. The window ended on September 30th, so these are some initial thinkings that we have within our team. First of all, was in participation. We did see a few problems with the new iStation platform. The one thing that was a burden is in early primary, because in the past, our students would be able to click on their screen using the touchpad. The new PowerPath did not have that as a capability yet. So we wondered a little bit as to whether that was going to impact our data. And so far, it looks pretty norm. We did have a nearly 100% participation, whether a student was in our buildings or not. One of the weaknesses that we did see is that we saw the percentage of students meeting the early on grade level mark remains lower than when we were in pandemic learning. And we did see an increase in the past 2 years in the students who are well behind their reading goals. Now, luckily, we showed you data this last spring that really we closed the gap very, very well. Our goal in the red bar that you see over there is to, again, decrease that by about 20% over the course of the year. One of the things that we are also trying to do is we are going to increase some professional learning. Katie Grotman, through her team, is providing additional training to our staff around Horton Gillingham, which is going to assess or address primary foundational skills, which are highly measured in this assessment. And again, working with the mice for our early primary students. Because PowerPath does not allow for touchscreens, we think that may be another area that we can move. Vice Chair Smith, if you would like, can I stop for a quick moment before we move on to Iready and ask, are there any questions about the Iready or iStation data for the Idaho Reading Indicator?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Dr. Nelson, I know you'd mentioned you're going to be able to provide breakout according to grade, maybe down the road.
Absolutely. So, Trustee May, we do have that data. We are refining it right now. We'll be able to provide data by building, by grade level, and we're also measuring it by skills. So when we want to look at spelling, for example, which is one of the subtests that is measured, we'll be able to look at up and down that and find out where specific areas of need are.
Oh, that's fantastic. And is this the sort of information, I know we talked about our data dashboard last month, that you'll anticipate that we'll eventually, our parents will be able to see and interact with on our dashboard?
Well, it is already there on our data dashboard at cdaschools.org. On the blue About Us menu option, you'll be able to see our data dashboard. And if you click in the elementary area, we've actually improved the data dashboard with clickability. So you'll be able to do some initial dive into the data right now.
Well, thank you, Dr. Nelson. I can't wait to check it out.
Absolutely. Any other questions from our trustees?
Good evening, Dr. Nelson. I was just wondering, on the grade benchmarks that you talk about there, as far as on grade or one grade below or two or more grades below, is that end of the year benchmarks that they're using, or those current, month into school?
Sure. These are norm reference assessments. The references that you're seeing there are based on the month of September. So iStation provides us monthly norms. The assessment that we'll take a look at in a few moments, Iready, provides us quarterly norms. But this is referring to students' place in the month of September over the course of an academic year. So you could consider them beginning of the year norms.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Vice Chair Smith, how do you feel about moving on to some math?
Let's go ahead and move on. Thanks, Dr.
All right. So in those same grade levels, we also provide a mathematics assessment called Iready Math. This particular assessment was chosen because it's aligned with our instructional materials in grades K through 5, which is called Ready Classroom. We have 3 windows a year that we universally screen our students in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring. And we do have optional monthly progress monitoring assessments as well. If a student is showing a particular need, we can watch them grow in smaller intervals along the way. Our results are both norm and criterion reference, meaning again, we're going to be able to compare our students' performance with populations throughout the United States. And we'll also be able to dive down specifically into the domains of mathematics that may be at struggle or success. Here's how we're looking so far over the course of the academic year. There's some really good news to share. In fact, 2 areas of statistical significance. The first area of significance would be when you take a look at the green bar on the right-hand side. 78% of our students are at grade level according to the fall benchmark and compared to national norms. That's wonderful to see, and it's fairly close to where we were at 2 years ago. But one of the even better things to take a look at is the red bar. Students identified as 2 or more grades below did decrease over the previous year 5% from where we're at, and it's the lowest that we have seen over the last 3 years. Mrs. Grotman, through her curricular department, has also provided personalized lessons available to all students. So any family member of a K through 5 student can access personal licenses and lessons based on where they're at. So our son, for example, when he logs on, he'll see lessons in areas that he needs to work on as he grows over the course of this academic year. And everybody's lesson path is going to be a little bit different. So it's nice, and it provides a dashboard of growth at the end of each lesson that a student completes. So 2 areas of statistical significance for us, the areas between the green bars and the red bars, both good to see. One of the things, however, that we may want to take a look at is you'll notice that we had about 1,800 fewer students taking this assessment this year. And that is because we no longer provide Iready in grades 6 through 8 with the new curricular adoption. We moved those students to FastBridge, and we'll be able to provide that data for you this next month. What are we seeing in our Iready data? Well, 3/4 of our students are on track. That is really great to be able to see. And again, a high percentage for those students. And we had fewer students in tier 3. Those are definitely some celebrations along the way. We did see a weakness in the domain of mathematics called number and operations. And these are mostly algorithmic operations. So practicing fluency in addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And many of those skills, however, are emphasized over the course of the academic year. And the standards intertwine those over the years. So I think we'll really see some good growth in that area. We did, however, see some inconsistent results, and especially when we look at our results in equity and we start taking a look at how our results are distributed amongst gender and race and service providing. We did see that there was a large disparity in the performance of mathematics around students receiving free and reduced lunch. So that's an area that we definitely are going to want to emphasize. Specifically in the red bar, you see that our goal is to be able to close those gaps with solid use of the instructional materials in Tier 1 teaching. We do think that we're going to be able to get to that point. This is an opportunity in the presentation. I'd like to ask for a quick mea culpa as well, because I had actually presented or provided information about FastBridge, but we were not noticed to include FastBridge in this meeting. I'll have that for you, even though the slides are in the packet for anybody to be able to see about how we performed. We aren't noticed to be able to do that until next month. So with your permission, Vice Chair Smith, may I move on to industry certifications, or does anybody have any questions about the Iready data?
No, just one quick comment, Dr. Nelson. I really appreciated here how you can really dial in on those weaknesses.
Absolutely.
That's a really interesting thing to be able to see us move to that spot, even in these reports, of just say, oh, that's a very numbers and operations. That's a very specific kind of area to address, instead of it seeming so big and broad just in general. So appreciate that.
Good to hear. And those conversations have already started. Our building administrators are data hounds, and they really love to be able to see where students are at. And that's really rubbing off in how we're using those data to make those individual decisions. Really, whenever you have any sort of assessment data, having that formative conversation with the student about their path and using it to be able to say, hey, let's try this. Let's practice this a little bit. Or I know that you're working specifically on this, makes a huge amount of difference in student growth.
Thanks.
We also want to take a few moments to get out of elementary school and talk about what happens to our students upon graduation. Over the course of a year, a student has an opportunity, every student in our high schools has the opportunity to earn an industry certification. These are skills that are instantly transferable to the workplace. And we have some data that we'd love to be able to share with you about the class of 2021 and where we can improve over the course of the coming year. Really, the state of Idaho provides certification areas in a variety of areas. In fact, 126 different certificates are recognized by the state of Idaho, some of which are just popping up on the screen now for you. For example, a student can learn how to become an ASE certified mechanic. In fact, we had 14 students this last year who absolutely can fix that problem in your car right now. Students can get a CPR certification and be recognized. Students can get their food safe handlers certificate to be able to work instantly at any restaurant in the Coeur d'Alene area. They can become CIA to A+ certified to be able to fix and address network problems or computer-based problems. Or they can become specialists in the Adobe suite of applications such as Photoshop and Illustrator, or use Microsoft Office applications well enough. We have a variety of different resources along the way, and our students are excelling in this to the point where 60% of our district graduates in the class of 2021 walked across our stage with a professional certificate in one or more areas. 279 of our graduates this last year, 279, certificates were granted this last year. Many of our certificates are being earned in the freshman and sophomore year. In fact, on the screen, you'll see 4 of our most popular certificates that were earned. 146 of our students received Photoshop certification this last year. So if you need that family photo edited, or if you need to be able to build a website, we have several students in our district right now who could help you with that. We talked a little bit about the office certification. 69 students in our district became either specialists or experts in Microsoft Word. 17 of our students became data-hungry people like me and got their Microsoft Excel certification. And we talked a little bit about the areas of mechanics through ASE as well through KTech and our partnership program out there. Really a lot of great celebration to be able to have, but there are some areas that we can improve in as well. Strength, absolutely. A majority of our students are graduating with an industry certification, but we are seeing fewer certifications since pre-pandemic times. We actually had a high of 729 certifications earned just before the pandemic began in the 19 school year. The other thing that we may want to consider as an opportunity for us is the fact that many of our students are getting certificates in specialized areas. For example, the Adobe suite we talked about. You know, it's great that we have 200 plus students earning certificates in Adobe suite applications, but those may not be as applicable. And again, there's 126 recognized certificates available in the state of Idaho. And as a district, 14 of those were used by district students. So there's a lot of other opportunities that are out there. One of the things that we have said in our continuous improvement plan is that we'd like to see 500 students receive certificates or dual degree graduates for the 2022 school year. That's in the plan that you approved this last month. And as I walked through Coeur d'Alene High School just a couple of days ago, I ran into Mr. Zach Russell, who is renovating the shop at Coeur d'Alene High School. Here's just a little bit of his work that he's been doing along the way. I think